sport has always seen champions and also those who cannot accept defeat. There are those who respond well in adversity by standing tall, like India did in the Sydney Test. And then there are those who will resort to any means to try and eke out a victory, like the Aussies. What's the difference? There may be times when people may have crossed the line, players may cross the line, they do not realize what they have said. For them, it may just be a way of trying to get under the skin of the opponent. But what of those who are history cheaters? What of those who have made it a habit of doing things and then acting as if they did not know what they were doing? How would you behave with such people? Shouldn't such organizations, bodies that allow such patronage, shouldn't such players, shouldn't such crowds be dealt with severely? Shouldn't Cricket Australia be docked championship points from the ICC Test Championship for the way they have not been able to handle limited crowds because of COVID-19 in the Sydney cricket ground? 12 years after Monkeygate, we are seeing a repeat of exactly what Cricket Australia said they do not stand for or they will not tolerate when Andrew Symonds came out and alleged a certain slur against him, which was totally misconstrued. It was an abuse, but not a racial one, is what Harbhajan Singh maintained, what Sachin Tendulkar maintained. But how did Cricket Australia and Australian cricketers respond at that time? How did Ian Chappell? How did the likes of Glenn McGrath and the likes of Ricky Ponting respond then? Now, when the Aussie crowds have behaved in a certain manner for over 2 days and nothing was done about it till the Indian team officially complained, how did the likes of Ricky Ponting respond? How did the likes of Glenn McGrath respond? How did the likes of Brett Lee and how did the likes of Andrew Symonds respond? Is it not a fair question to ask? How is it okay that an Aussie spectator or an Aussie supporter can abuse anybody and Cricket Australia can say, we do not know who did it. We've just asked a certain segment because we do not know. Why? What were the stewards doing? When a Virat Kohli can stand up for Steve Smith, why didn't Steve Smith stand up for a Jasprit Bumrah or a Mohammad Siraj? These are questions which we need to ask and we need to put forth and wonder whether Cricket Australia should be docked points from the ICC Test Championship. Whether a Steve Smith, for the way he behaved, trying to scruff the guard off of an informed Rishabh Pant who was going after the Aussie bowlers. So you will do anything, and this after facing a ban for Sandpaper Gate. See, every single instance. You remember Virat Kohli's middle finger, 2011, 2012, again Sydney. Who did he react to? The crowds. What were they doing? Constantly abusing him. Ravichandran Ashwin, given an earful, even today, by the captain, Tim Paine behind wickets. Season after season, Ashwin has been abused. Either because of his skin or because of the fact that he's getting under the skin of the Aussies, purely because of his ability, and that too because of his spin. But why should it be okay? Time and again, and it's not just Indian players. Moeen Ali, England cricketer. Hashim Amla, who was called a terrorist by a former Australian cricketer who was in the commentator's box. And he didn't think it was a big deal. Let me just read through what the ICC's anti-discrimination policy says. And this was formed 4 years after Monkeygate. 4 years after the chants that they got. And at least 4 decades after the likes of Clive Lloyd, Vivian Richards and the others, the West Indians said, this is how we are treated all the time. Amakhaya Ntini was subjected to racial abuse. And Usman Khwaja, an Australian cricketer himself, has come out and said that he was subjected to so much abuse because he is Pakistan born that he did not even want to stand up for his national team. This is the kind of history that we are seeing in Australia. Australian human rights activists, Australian government and its reports very clearly say that there is racism which is active and prevalent in Australia, although largely most of the people are cohesive in nature, but this does exist. Both racism and gamesmanship at a time when the Aussies were at the back foot. Whenever you have seen successive captains from Ricky Ponting, before that Alan Border, and after that successive captains Steve Smith and now Tim Paine. Whenever the Aussies have been under the pump, they have been under pressure, they've been desperate for a win, they have resorted to dirty tricks. That's why nobody stood up. Why didn't a Steve Smith stand up for a Jasprit Bumrah is a question I'll continue to ask. And why should a Steve Smith be given a second chance after what he has done when Rishabh Pant was taking guard? These are all instances which stand out, with Aussies infamous as racist. Now, 2 days, this is what the information says. Players were racially abused for 2 whole days and action by guards only after the players complained. Why didn't the guards stand up and say, no, you're not going to abuse any player on the cricket field? Shouldn't Cricket Australia be docked for it? Is a question that the ICC and the BCCI have to answer. Shouldn't India, like they stood tall against racism and racist abuse on the cricket field, stand up to it off the field too? Think about it.